Well, I found this article earlier today, Dave, and it was interesting because I found some conflicting news. So maybe you can help me sort this out. Here's one from Fox Business, which was encouraging. More Americans optimistic about their finances in 2022 despite inflation. So, inflation's rising at the fastest pace in decades, it says, which means consumers are paying more for rent, utilities, groceries than ever before. Plus, federal student loan payments restart this year, potentially impacting financial stability of millions of borrowers. However, a new survey from Ally Bank shows that most Americans are optimistic about their finances, despite all of this. More than half, 53% of respondents, said they're confident about their personal financial standing. 59% believe they'll be better off financially a year from now. And two-thirds, 65%, said they'll likely achieve their financial goals for 2022, even with record-high inflation. So people out there are optimistic.
And even with the fact that they've gone further in debt in 2021 than at any time in history.
That's the
Consumer debt went
confusing
through
part.
the roof.
Here's what we're seeing from Reuters here. U.S. household debt increased by $1 trillion in 2021, the most since 2007. Higher borrowing was fueled in part by rising prices as consumers cope with the strongest inflation seen in nearly 4 decades, and households supported by increased savings and higher incomes seem to be handling the larger debt loads well so far. So this brings me to my next point, Dave. I'm curious. You've seen some things in your day. Not trying to age you here, but you've been through 2008. You've been through a real recession. And this is saying the debt has increased the most since '07, right before our last big recession. Do you feel like we're heading towards another one based on these numbers?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the answer on that. Economists and weather forecasters, the only people can be wrong all the time and keep their jobs.
It's a good job to have then.
But the thing that always does run parallel with this, okay, is if my income is high enough and I can keep spending even money I don't have by going further into debt, then I can ignore inflation and I can ignore the fact that I'm going further in debt than I ever have in my life, and I can ignore the fact that the United States of America is going further in debt than it has ever gone in, that the deficit has doubled in 1 decade. Doubled. The amount of debt we're in the United States has doubled. The United States government has doubled the debt, and that pulls money out of the economy. So when the U.S. borrows money using bonds and parks it on the sidelines, they borrow $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, and they park that money over on the shelf. It's no longer out here moving around doing things. It's sitting over here. So they're sidelining it. They're shrinking the money supply by sucking the marrow out of the bones of the economy with the borrowing for the United States government. That's what they're doing. Then add to that the consumer's doing the same stupid thing, only the consumer's stimulating the economy because they're buying things in the economy, and that's cycling. Yeah. That money's cycling. So when they spend money on a car, even if it's borrowed money, that car purchase goes into a car company, which goes into car company salaries, which goes back into the rest. That guy working at the car company on the Toyota line can go out and buy a steak, and which, by the way, doubled too. And so because they must have universal wage and at the cattle farm. So, wages are impacting all of these prices left and right. So we're making more, spending more, and spending more due to inflation as well. And so what we've got here is we've got a recipe for a comeuppance.
It's a good way to say it.
Sounds like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Comeuppance. A comeuppance is coming. It's a heffalump. It's a comeuppance is coming. The heffalumps are coming.
We've got record low interest rates.
That's what's happening because what you're doing is think about this just on an individual level. All right. Think about your friend who's borrowing himself into oblivion. He's going to get the car payment. He's going on vacation on a credit card, and you can just watch him. He's heading to the wall. He's going to hit the wall. He's going to hit the financial wall, and you can't stop him because he feels good because he's making more money than he's ever made in his life because he just got out of college, and he got a big job, but he's spending more. He's spending like he's in Congress, and a comeuppance is coming. You know that on an individual basis, and that's what this says on a macro basis.
Wow. So it doesn't matter how you feel about finances. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to rely on the economy to decide to dictate your financial goals? Not me.
Please, no.